In their book Dora David Informal Vertical Communities, urban think tank draw attention to the social and physical organization of an unfinished skyscraper in the center of Caracas that is inhabited by squatters. Urban think tank extract the systems which make up the typology of the vertical slum. They present the space as the intersection of historical, architectural, and sociological factors, and not just a static urban condition. The residents of Torre David appropriated the tower at a time when the city could not meet their needs conventionally. In a city where the barrios accommodate 60% of the residents, what differentiates Torre David? To what extent can the conclusions drawn from the study of the tower be applied across the barrios of Caracas? After the year-long in situ research came an exhibit at the Venice Biennale where Urban Think Tank attempted to replicate a piece of life inside Torre David. They recreated the Gran Horizonte, the tower's main restaurant, accompanying a curated set of photographs by Iwan Ban. Urban Think Tank's proposal for the future of the cities is the new city on top of the old city, breaking the conventional infrastructural grid. They cite lack of policy in infrastructure as a key factor in allowing the city to be reanalyzed. Their main proposals for the Torre are the infrastructural ones, stating that it is the glue that holds together society.
The interventions proposed in the book improve the efficiency of the water and power distribution systems that are currently in use in the tower. They diagram the ways in which these resources are currently distributed as inefficient and haphazardous as a result of intermittent implementation. Currently, each apartment has a small water tank which has to be refilled often, and there is an individual electricity breaker for each unit as well. They propose systems which consolidate water and electricity and distribute them throughout the tower. While any intervention proposed by an architect is likely to be formal to some degree, the ones proposed by Urban Think Tank apply a uniform system to the entire tower, disregarding the heterogeneity they advertise as being the defining characteristic of the tower. While these changes may be necessary and welcome, they are presented as being the solution to life in the squats. In reality, the problem as presented in the book is much more complex and a result of many social, economical, and political factors. However, only the aesthetic architectural solutions are presented, and no further mention is made to the humanitarian or social implications of the proposal. In his talk, Brillenberg implies that investors, engineers, and policymakers need to come together to make these necessary changes to the building. However, if these people of power were to invest their time and resources to improve life in Torre David, we don't think that these small-scale interventions should be the main starting point. These smaller-scale interventions should be delegated to the residents, giving them the resources and the agency to implement their own changes. Instead, political and economical focus should be given to larger policies and urban proposals, which will in turn favorably affect life in Torre David and the barrios at large. Furthermore, there is no substantial evidence to suggest that any investor has an actual interest or intent in providing financial support to a squatted building in Caracas. Fundraisers made by Urban Think Tank have financed smaller-scale operations in the barrios, like the solid toilets, but large interventions in a 48-story building will need more than that. The interventions themselves seem to be split into two different groups, the small-scale ones, directly related to the everyday lives of the residents, and the larger-scale ones, showcasing the architectural character orchestrated by Urban Think Tank, focusing on the burgeoning character of professional specialization evident in the tower. The insertion of new entrepreneurships in the community can only be beneficial. The plumber, the electrician, or the mechanical engineer in charge of the gradual construction of the elevator can easily be inserted in the vertical community and start working on the systematization of the tower from the inside. Interventions would then be based on a system that is inspired from the tower itself, following an internal and personal process rather than an imposed one. The community awareness and further organization of its residents would be benefited. It is of course important to rally around this project and bring external attention to the living conditions in the tower. However, the actual problems that ask for serious and immediate solutions aren't architectural or practical ones. They are social and political. So investors, policymakers, and politicians should get involved, just in ways different and less simplistic than the intervention suggests.
Urban Think Tank draw attention on Torre David by showcasing their research in two forms, an exhibit at the Venice Biennale and a book, published almost simultaneously. Both book and exhibition received mixed comments, focusing on the trend of aiding the squatters on the one hand and romanticizing the squat itself on the other hand. This project fits within the wider context of urban think tank's work, which deals largely with slums, squatters, and marginalized communities. Urban think tank refer to the barriers and the squatting initiatives as the future of the cities. They believe that thorough research on new urban conditions, on the new ways that people used to inhabit the cities, can lead to a true incorporation of the past in the future. The tower is studied from many different angles, and small interventions are proposed, aimed at facilitating the everyday lives of the squatters. For the idyllic projection of this new urban reality to the future, Urban Think Tank invoked the photography of Iwan Ban, star architectural photographer of the moment. His photography captures the productive and organized everyday lives of people inside the Torre, the different phases of space appropriation before a home is created, along with breathtaking shots of the Grand Torre itself. Ban's photography plays a key role in the project, being showcased as part of the Biennale exhibit and being the moving power and front cover of the publication. The exhibition and the book focus on the depiction of an everyday life that appears colorful and proudly self-sustained. A quick look at amateur videos and non-curated photos shows a much different reality. The Torre has missing walls and glazings, removed by the government when construction stopped. The fact that people have managed to live inside it implies nothing more than their struggle to survive in a financially challenged country. The materials used for the exhibit are brand new, the furnishings expensive. The food offered there was priced with European museum standards. It was an overall beautified depiction of a much harsher reality, resulting in a fetishization of the squatting condition, promoting it as an answer to rapid urban growth. The fetishization is much more evident in the book, where the reader is subjected to a series of highly curated photos, showing, according to the editors, the strength of human will and the privileged position of occupying the upper floors of Caracas's most valued real estate property. However, the reality is, in the current conditions, people remain cramped and unsafe. Children are still falling from the upper balconies while playing, and cardboard panels covering the removed glazings are still there. The book cover itself is an ode to the Torre, elevating the squatted facade to a symbol for a new urbanity.
Alfredo Berlinberg himself iterated again and again in his talk at the GSAP that many former squats, such as the industrial lofts in Soho and Alphabet City, are now prime real estate, housing the city's elite, implying that in the future the Torre will perhaps have a similar fate. He mentions that desperation following a financial or natural disaster make people open to experimentation. Detroit is used as a recent example where a bankrupt and socially dilapidated city becomes a gray area, ideal for implementing unorthodox urban solutions and architectural tests. He states that these sites should be exploited, and it is through these instances of lack of regulation and policy that architectural innovation can start to be extracted and commodified to apply to future cities. When looking at the wider context of Urban Think Tank's work, we have to wonder why they chose the Torre David to be the spearhead of their campaign. They have worked in the barrios and slums of various countries and have made interventions of varying degrees and contexts. However, they chose to present the very unique case of Torre David at the Venice Biennale, using it as an example to represent the global squatter's condition. However, the reality is that the Torre has a unique nature which doesn't easily fit into any architectural category, and is particularly that fact which makes it an interesting and complex area of study.